This is the Retirement Bullpen with Richard Warner. The team at Warner Financial Solutions want to help you feel confident about your retirement, no matter where you stand. Get more at warnerfinancialsolutions.com. Now, the Retirement Bullpen.
Welcome back to the Retirement Bullpen here, powered by Warner Financial Solutions there out of the Lincoln, Nebraska area. And Richard Warner is here with us, the retirement income certified professional here, to dive into some of the big issues and some of the things that may be on your mind as you plan your retirement. As you're making those plans there, go to warnerfinancialsolutions.com. And Richard and the team, they would love you to schedule a meeting, subscribe to the newsletter, and of course, subscribe to the podcast too. And if you know people that need to hear about this, be sure to share it with them. warnerfinancialsolutions.com. Get the word out there. My name is Doug Turnbull, the new co-host of this podcast. I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I've done traffic reporting at fast-paced, as you can probably hear how fast I'm talking, on Atlanta radio for over 20 years. And I'm joined here by Richard Warner. Richard, so good to have our first episode together. How are you doing here in the Retirement Bullpen?
Doing great today, Doug. Great to have you on. Great to get to know you a little bit, and which we have a little bit. But yeah, this is our first time doing the podcast, so I'm looking forward to it.
Look, and I was excited, especially to talk to you, Richard, because this is the Retirement Bullpen. I'm a big Atlanta Braves fan. All right. So I don't know how that resonates in America's heartland. There is Braves country, but you're probably closer to the Cubs or not. Is there a particular team you're rooting for over there?
So I've always been a Royals fan, Kansas City Royals fan, and they're
big series for us coming up here.
Yeah,
we record this anyway.
Potentially going to make the playoffs this year for the first time in a long time. But my secondary team's always been the Braves. Growing up, that was the one team other than the Cubs you could watch on TV no matter what. So
TBS,
with the
Braves.
Now you can see everybody anytime you want. But back when I was a kid, it wasn't the case. I mean, you had the Cubs or you had the Braves, and then once a random selection of teams on other channels, depending upon what was going on. So yeah, Braves are fun to watch too.
That's why both the Braves and the Cubs have such big followings. WGN in Chicago, WTBS in Atlanta, and they were on cable, so they were all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, Richard, so you're a Royals fan, and by the time people hear this, the Braves and Royals have already played their series and gone or not gone to the playoffs. Both of our teams have had fought their headwinds, but you didn't choose the name the Retirement Bullpen just because you love the Royals, right? You have a coaching background and a playing background. So maybe people that have listened to earlier episodes have heard it, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about your coaching and athletics story.
Sure, I'll keep it brief for those who've heard this before. But yeah, I grew up playing baseball. I played baseball for 3 years in college till my arm and other motivations kind of got me out of it. But have coached in some aspect off and on and very steadily for the last 14, 15 years or so. My kids have been involved with baseball. I love coaching baseball because I believe it teaches some fundamentals to young men about dealing with life, specifically the failure of life.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of those principles apply to what we do in our practice as far as creating a successful retirement income plan. And so I don't know, they kind of go hand in hand. And I thought the two merge well together, and coaching individuals with their finances very much like coaching young men with baseball.
I could imagine that could go all sorts of directions there. Like, hey, if you're over an entire season, you can't roll your star pitcher out every game. They've got to rest some, and then you maybe rest some of your star players before you get to the end of the season if you do have playoffs coming up. And I could see pacing yourself as far as money, how that's transferable, and of course, just working together as a team, trusting other people, so many other things as far as that goes. And the bullpen management. Speaking of the retirement bullpen, that's a whole nother thing too.
Correct. Yeah. So, it's one of those things where, you can't use everything you got up front. You got to make sure. This is probably the biggest thing people struggle with, that maybe the do-it-yourselfers, is how do I take that pile of money that I've accumulated throughout my life, and how do I stretch that out, creating predictability, predictable income streams, minimize taxes, minimize risk, but yet get some returns to keep ahead of inflation and make that money last for the unforeseeable things, but also make sure I have the income I need, because nobody wants to wake up at 80, 85 and find out I'm out of money and I got to go back to work. So you don't want to burn out that bullpen. So
no. And let's look, this particular episode, we really are going to dive into the unexpected. And so let's do that right now. y'all listening know we both love baseball over here. And I think something that's germane to almost every baseball team's season, but certainly of my beloved Atlanta Braves, have been the unexpected injuries. Our top starter, Spencer Strider, went down in his second start. Ronald Acuna Jr., the first player with 40 homers and 70 RBIs in a season, he gets lost in, I believe it was June this season, sometime right in the middle of the year. It'd been other, Austin Riley, all these different injuries. It would get too much deeper in the woods. And I know on the Royals, y'all have had some injuries on offense as well.
A big one about 3 weeks ago. And yeah, the unexpected stuff happens.
That right. I remember reading, y'all had this great thing going, and then suddenly, a big tower or big column that holds you guys up falls out. So planning for the unexpected, right? You can't use it all up at the beginning. You may just want to go on that year-long cruise because you have $500,000 or whatever. I have no idea how much that costs, but you don't want to blow the wad when you're 65 years old because something unexpected at 75. How do you coach people to navigate those unexpected things?
Well, it starts with they have to see how it looks through a simulation, if that makes sense. That's probably the hardest thing for people to grasp, Doug, is like, I've got this money. How do I make sure it's going to last? How do I see what that's going to look like? I think probably the biggest thing people have difficulty with, at least that I've run into, is they assume that, hey, if it costs me $5,000 a month to live today, going into retirement, it's going to stay that way for the rest of my life, the next 20, 30 years. And they don't take into account what inflation is going to do. So that's not an unexpected, but yet to a lot of people, the first time we're talking to them, it is unexpected. They're like, you seriously mean my 5,000 is going to turn into 9,000 over the next 20 years without me adding any extra expenses? Yeah, that's historical inflation. That's what happens. And so that's a big unexpected, which shouldn't be, but it is. But then the emergency expense. I've gotten a couple of calls recently. I have this expense. I needed to help this person. I had that happen. I had this happen. And so they're diving into the 401k plan, which is okay. That's what that money's for.
Yeah.
But what they don't take into consideration is, okay, we're pulling $15,000. We're pulling $50,000, whatever that number might be for a particular individual. We're pulling that out of that 401k on top of what we were going to pull anyways. That money's never been taxed.
Oh.
So not only am I creating a drag on my account that we were projecting forward for so many years, but I'm also having to pull more out to pay the taxes. Plus, now my Social Security, which was getting taxed in one way, is now getting taxed at a higher rate because I have a higher level of income. So it creates this snowball effect where I spent way more money than I ever planned, and it's worse than I thought because of the extra taxes that it cost me. So it's an additional unexpected expense. On top of, I'm helping my friend, I'm helping my family, I'm taking this trip, all that sorts of thing. So when we're sitting down with somebody, we really want to help them understand, if you're using your 401k, your pre-tax dollars for your emergency account, there's other factors that we just discussed right there. So you really need to have an emergency account going into retirement. A good rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months of expenses. Some people just like to have $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 sitting in a savings account. A lot of people hate that. Not so much right now because interest rates are better. But 2 years ago, people hated having $30,000 sitting in their checking or their savings account because it was getting nothing. And so they felt like it was doing nothing, but that money is so valuable when the unexpected happens.
Yeah.
The heater goes out, the roof goes off, you got to pay your deductible. Your kids need help, whatever it might be. I've heard a lot of them this year. And so planning for those unexpected, not having to utilize the pre-tax money is huge because that pre-tax money creates another unexpected expense, extra taxes that you weren't even considering.
The part about the taxes is such a great point. If you have a 401k, of course, that hasn't been taxed yet. You've been accruing that money for years of retirement. And then if you do need to draw off of it, which the day will come, that you're going to get hit. So how do you, let's just say, if somebody's blown through the rainy day fund. The rainy day fund was non-qualified money. They've been sticking it away. By the way, the Bob Dylan song "Rainy Day Woman" number 12 and 35 just came in my head, and we're not going to be stoned. We're not doing that. Just I want to be extra clear. We're not hippies here on the Retirement Bullpen. All right, but okay. Anyway, Richard's going, where are we going with this? No, but you blown through the we've blown through the rainy day fund, and now you do need to get to one of the things you have locked up, like a 401k. How do you coach people upon taking that out? Because I know once you take money out, depending on the kind of account it is, it can also affect your tax bracket or how it interfaces with Social Security or how much you get from Social Security. So what do you kind of coach people to do if they need to tap into an income source they weren't expecting to tap into?
Well, if it's a few $1,000s, it's not a big deal. But if it's a big transaction, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 or more, depending upon what their overall income looks like, we take them through a process of doing a tax analysis. What's this going to do? Because I think they need to understand, what is this actually going to cost? A lot of people don't really get that. They get, we're going to have to pay the taxes on this, but they don't get, what's it doing to Social Security? And if you get in some really big brackets, it can even affect your Medicare premiums and all sorts of different things like that. And so we caution them, but it's something you got to be very careful with, because the other part of that is, it's their money. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, I've had a lot of conversations with people over the years where they feel like their advisor is not letting them have their money. And in the end, if they want to pull their money, it's their money. It's not my money, it's their money. But at the same time, it is my job to educate them and let them know, making this transaction isn't just costing you this, it's costing you this and this and this as well.
That's a great, you're essentially you're working on their behalf for their money. I mean, that's the whole bottom line. That's what someone, when they go to WarnerFinancialSolutions.com to schedule that meeting or subscribe to the newsletter or even subscribe to the podcast, whatever, they need to know you're not trying to keep them from what's theirs. Ultimately, you're helping them make the decision. You're not making the decision, I guess. Is that the best way to put it?
Correct. Yeah, ultimately they have to make the decision on their own. And sometimes they think, wow, I don't want to spend that much, and I'm going to dial that down a little bit and take a little bit less. Sometimes I don't have any choice. Obviously, they appreciate the education. That's probably the toughest part, is telling somebody you really shouldn't take this money whether you need to or not. But it's your money, so you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not their mom or their dad. But it feels like that sometimes in that conversation, which it's not what we want to happen, but it is our job. We are their partner in making sure they don't run out of money. And that's one of the things I got to do, is let them know, hey, this is the consequences. But it starts with, at the beginning, having that consultation when you're nearing that stage, even if you're not quite there, maybe you're a few years out, but having that plan put in place to actually look at, what does those scenarios look like? Do I have some extra money? If the emergencies happen, or does everything going to have to work out perfectly? I might want to consider working a year longer, or I might want to consider picking up a part-time job for a few years or something I enjoy. Maybe you hate what you do. And so these are all things we want to have a conversation leading into retirement, where some people, you just get a call and say, hey, I retired. What do I do with my 401k? And you don't really have anything you can do at that point, but do the best you can.
It's like if you're in a totally different realm, if someone goes to therapy, usually it's not how the therapist answers you. It's usually the questions they ask you that get you pointed in the right direction there. And that's what we want you all to do here, WarnerFinancialSolutions.com. And one last question here, Richard, before we wrap up, just in our last minute. You've seen a lot of people over the years. What is the most common unexpected thing that they don't account for? If there's like a particular life event, an anvil falling off a cliff, is it long-term care? Is it a kid getting married they thought would never get married? I don't know. Is there?
I would say actually taxes, but I'm going to throw the one that tugs at the heartstrings the most, and it's something happens with your kid.
Yeah.
And they may even have gone into retirement thinking, I am not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But sometimes something happens, and it's like they feel obligated, like, I have to help them. I have this money. They are desperate.
Yeah.
And that creates an emotional pull that's really hard to fight. But then it creates some of those other consequences we've discussed. But I would say it's that one right there. No matter what their plan is, it's that emotional tug of something happened to my kid and they need my help.
That's a great way to put it on there. So yeah, whether it's 1 kid, 2 kids, 12 grandkids, whatever, trying to fight and make the right solution, expected or unexpected there. And Richard Warner, your retirement income certified professional here on the Retirement Bullpen at Warner Financial Solutions. He's going to help you steer through that. So go to warnerfinancialsolutions.com. Once again, schedule a meeting. Let Richard and his team just ask you the right questions. Do that simulation he talked about to figure out things expected and unexpected, whether it's a tax hit or long-term care or something with your kid, and they're going to start getting the process going to get everything going there in retirement in the right direction. So glad to get this first episode here in the can with you, Richard. I'm really glad that we got to do this, and thanks for spending your time today.
Yeah, it was a great time. Appreciate everything you've done as well, Doug.
Now, thank you, Richard, and thank you, everybody, for listening to the Retirement Bullpen. We'll have another episode coming your way very soon.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Warner Financial. Warner Financial is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Warner Financial are not subject to investment advisor requirements. NPN number 7617022. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Warner Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Warner Financial.